Jordan first saw the app advertised on a social media forum dedicated to insomnia remedies. Its sophisticated marketing pitch promised clear-headedness, improved memory, and restful sleep. That last claim caught Jordan's attention immediately. Night after night of tossing and turning had left him exhausted. He was always on the lookout for something, anything, that might relieve his nightly struggles, even if it involved trying obscure phone apps of uncertain origin. Despite feeling mildly suspicious, he downloaded and installed it. Upon launching, the app's interface greeted him with soothing purples and blues, reminiscent of a twilight sky. Across the screen scrolled a single instruction: accept the terms to proceed. He tapped agree without reading the fine print, and felt a strange thrill, as though he was stepping across a forbidden threshold. Jordan pressed get started, and it guided him through a short voice calibration test. Relax your breathing, the recorded instructions said. Inhale, exhale, and let your mind wander. The voice was serene, almost entrancing. Jordan could have sworn he felt a slight tug in his consciousness, but told himself it was just the exhaustion talking. That night, following the app's guidance, Jordan lay in bed with his headphones on, letting the gentle murmur of instrumental music wash over him. A soft hum, almost imperceptible, pulsed beneath the melody, like the faint hum of electrical wires. Sleep came surprisingly quickly. Jaron didn't remember drifting off. He only recalled the app's final words: "You're safe in your dreams, and you're in control." The next morning, he woke at his desk. Confused, he blinked at the glare of his computer screen. The bed stood untouched. His phone's battery was nearly drained, the app still glowing faintly. Irritated with himself for apparently ignoring the welcome chance to sleep in bed, Jordan shook his head and dismissed it as a random inconvenience. Had he gotten up in the middle of the night without remembering it? Sleepwalking wasn't new to him. He'd occasionally rearrange items on the nightstand before waking, but it had been years since his last known episode. He chalked it up to a stressful day, promptly forgetting the incident until the following evening. On the second night, Jordan hesitated before using the app again, but curiosity and the memory of how quickly he'd fallen asleep won out. If he truly had dozed off so fast, it was an accomplishment. So he plugged in his phone, set an alarm for an early morning meeting, and let the hypnotic music lull him once more. This time, the subtle hum beneath the track seemed more pronounced. It aroused a tingling sensation at the base of his skull, but it wasn't entirely unpleasant. Jordan stayed alert for as long as he could, analyzing the layers of sound, before sleep inevitably claimed him. He dreamed of an abandoned zoo. In the dream, he marched beneath rusted gates under flickering lamps, slipping between dilapidated enclosures, where shadows scurried like predators on the hunt. A voice echoing in the distance commanded him to continue forward. Kneeling behind a cluster of broken crates, he realized the voice was giving him a mission: to hunt something or someone in the darkness. He felt no fear, only adrenaline-fueled determination. Suddenly, a figure darted into view, a faceless silhouette. Unbidden, Jordan raised his hand, clutching a heavy piece of metal, and struck. The figure fell. He woke gasping. That morning, he found himself lying under the dining table, edges of the chairs knocked askew around him. He shot upright, heart pounding, as memories of the dream lingered like the aftertaste of something bitter. Perspiration darkened the collar of his t-shirt. He quickly checked himself for injuries but found none. Given the bizarre circumstances, Jordan resolved to investigate. Perhaps the app had subliminal elements specifically designed to cause vivid dreams. He told himself it was just an advanced technique for reprogramming bad sleep habits. Still, something about that violent dream rattled him. Classes that day were a blur. He tried to focus on the lecture, but kept recalling that moment in the dream: the metal bar, the faceless silhouette, and the unstoppable compulsion to strike. Once classes ended, he retreated to the library's back corner and found a seat among the dusty psychology manuals. With his laptop open, he scoured online forums for anything referencing the app. A few stray posts mentioned extreme lucid dreaming and unexplained violent outbursts, but every thread he found had a suspicious response from a user boasting how miraculous the app was, dismissing the negative comments as psychosomatic or the result of an overactive imagination. Jordan sensed that these suspiciously positive responses might be orchestrated by the app's creators, designed to downplay concerns. He found only a single credible conversation. A user named Adela posted a chilling account of how her roommate began using the app, only for her to wake in the night and see the roommate rummaging in the kitchen with a blank expression. The next day, the roommate had no recollection. After the third night, Adela left college altogether. Like Jordan, she suspected subliminal or hypnotic suggestions forced them into these bizarre episodes. Her final words echoed through Jordan's mind. "If you're smart, you'll remove that app before it's too late." Skepticism wrestled with intrigue. The app still ringed his phone's home screen in an inviting shade of blue. Unlike the nightmares, the sense of clarity during his daytime hours had improved. His memory felt sharper, and he no longer blanked out during presentations. It was as though the app was feeding him mental vitamins. But at what cost? That night, he resolved not to run it. Instead, Jordan listened to soft jazz from his personal playlist. He read for a while and placed his phone face down on the bedside table. Sleep came gradually, without incident. He awakened normally, except the phone was missing. He found it hours later under his pillow, the mysterious app still open, the headphone cord trailing off the bed. Alarms went off in his mind. Had he sleepwalked to get the phone back? Or was there something else at work? The nightmares intensified. He saw himself in abandoned hospitals, decaying houses, hollow school places that reeked of neglect. Always a disembodied voice inciting him to act with hostility. Sometimes, his dream figures circled vulnerable characters cowering in corners, fear etched into their features. He'd lash out, forcibly jolting awake before seeing the horrifying outcome. Reality and dream began to blur. He found the physical evidence more alarming. A broken dish, nasty scratches on his arms, and once, a mysteriously bloodied tissue in the trash. Too terrified to go to the police without evidence of wrongdoing, Jordan decided to log every detail. If he was the cause of real violence, he had to know. As a computer science major, Jordan had some hacking knowledge. He pried open the app's code, but was greeted with heavily encrypted strings. Still, he managed to trace data logs traveling to a remote server. The data transmissions were hefty, more than simple usage statistics. After poring over lines of code, he found an embedded script that connected to a private network at precisely 1:30 a.m. every night. The script triggered the phone's microphone to record presumably everything: his breathing, any noises he made, even random conversation if people were around. Then the data was uploaded. The question tormented him. Was that all it was doing? Or was the data also feeding back some hidden instructions to his unconscious mind? Jordan confided in his friend Sasha, a psychology grad student known for her inquisitive nature. She was the one who had introduced him to certain advanced theories of hypnosis and dream manipulation during a late-night chat session months earlier. "You're telling me the app is collecting data while you sleep, and you suspect it might be controlling your behavior?" Sasha asked, her brow furrowed. She looked both intrigued and appalled. He showed her the logs. "I think they're sending me these violent dream instructions," Jordan said. A part of him felt silly saying it out loud, but the evidence was impossible to ignore. "I keep waking up in weird places. I have bruises I can't explain. If this is real, it's beyond unethical. It's criminal." Sasha agreed. "Who's behind it, though? If we can trace who's receiving these uploads, we might figure out their objective." They spent a long night hacking into the app's network, determined to find the source. Firewalls, proxy servers, and intricate encryption layers severely hampered their progress. Eventually, they got a partial lead: a shell company with an innocuous name, Horace Tech Solutions, registered to a corporate address in a far-flung industrial area. Searching local licensing records revealed next to nothing. Sasha, eyes gritty from fatigue, rubbed her temples. "We'll need more than this to go to the authorities." Meanwhile, Jordan started noticing ephemeral messages appearing on his phone, fleeting text lines across his lock screen that vanished too quickly to read, or notifications that displayed only a single word, like surrender or comply. At first, he brushed them off as software glitches. Then came the voice messages, eerie half-second clips that sounded like encrypted instructions. He tried to forward them to Sasha, only to discover they disappeared in transit. It was as if the app was taunting him, letting him know it retained control. One night, fueled by a potent mix of rage and desperation, Jordan tossed the phone into a desk drawer and locked it tight. Determined to prove to himself he could resist, he snatched a spare phone from a shelf so he still had a way to wake up for class. Despite the turmoil, he actually drifted off with a glimmer of hope. It was the first night in weeks without the hypnotic music. He woke in the small hours to find the desk drawer ajar, the lock forcibly wrenched open, and the phone missing. A noise in the living room signaled someone was there. Heart in his throat, Jordan crept down the hallway to see his own hand tapping the phone screen. No, not quite. He was behind himself, staring at his slumped figure, eyes wide but unseeing, screen glare illuminating his face. He watched himself, his own body, stand and walk, phone in hand, his movements jerky like a puppet on strings. Shocked, Jordan realized he was fully conscious, yet still in a dreamlike vantage, as though an astral projection allowed him to observe what his physical body was doing. His body moved with determined precision, heading to the kitchen and rifling through the utensils drawer. Jordan wanted to scream, but his lips wouldn't form the words. Then he saw the reflection in the microwave door. His eyes were open, but vacant, pupils constricted. A long chef's knife glinted in the overhead light. His body grasped it and stood motionless, as if awaiting further instructions. Finally, the phone vibrated and he pivoted toward the door. Jordan's consciousness felt trapped, forced to bear witness as his physical form unlocked the door and left the apartment. The next memory was horrifying. Dawn light streamed through the windows, and Jordan awoke in his bedroom, the front door still ajar. He found the knife lying on the porch, its blade smeared with something dark. He felt an icy sweat break out across his forehead. Had he harmed someone? With trembling hands, he fumbled for the phone. He saw streaks on the lock screen, a half-wiped residue that might have been blood. Then he saw the local news alert flashing on his roommate's TV. A minor assault had occurred 2 blocks away in the early hours of the morning. The victim, described as in shock but with non-lethal injuries, was unable to provide a clear description of their assailant. Jordan felt nauseated. He stumbled to the bathroom and vomited. Over the next few days, Jordan avoided the app like poison, but it was no use. Its presence on his phone seemed unstoppable. Deleting it only caused it to reinstall itself with the next system update. He switched phones, but somehow the app reappeared. Downloaded via a linked account or hidden backup. Was like an infection. In desperation, he visited Sasha. She suggested a radical approach. We need to find the server's control signals and disrupt them at the source. If they're actually controlling your sleep states, we might cause the entire system to crash, or at least lose its hold on you. Together, they devised a plan to physically investigate Horace Tech's address. Located in an industrial zone where abandoned factories languished, the corporate building's windows were dark. The only sign of life was a flickering fluorescent light near a side entrance. Sasha picked the old lock while Jordan stood guard, anxiety clawing at his insides. An ominous hush cloaked the interior. Rows of dusty cubicles lined a hallway leading to a locked lab area. A single overhead light illuminated a door labeled Biofeedback Research. Inside, they found computers running specialized software. The monitors displayed streaming data, hundreds of user IDs, EEG readings, biometric stats, and location coordinates. Jordan recognized them as consistent with the type of data the app collected. The system carried on in real time, lines of code scrolling rapidly, transferring data to an unknown location. In the corner sat an array of server racks, each blinking with pale green and red lights. Sasha gasped, pointing to an ID labeled JRN45. Jordan recognized those letters as part of his email address. EEG waveforms spiked and fell in mesmerizing patterns. Brent, Sasha's friend in advanced neuroscience, had once told her that certain wave frequencies were linked to hypnotic states. According to the readouts, Jordan's waves were highly susceptible. It was as though the system recognized him as an ideal candidate, manipulated for maximum effect. They attempted to shut down the servers. A loud alarm sounded, echoing through the hallway. Red lights flashed overhead, and the system locked them out. Panic surged. Sasha frantically tried bypassing the security panels, but the main shutters began to close. A robotic voice repeated, "Unauthorized entry detected. Contacting security." Jordan tried to yank open the door, but it wouldn't budge. They were almost trapped. At the last second, they found an emergency exit hidden behind a row of filing cabinets. Struggling with adrenaline, they forced it open and fled into a side alley. Sirens in the distance grew louder. Without stopping to breathe normally, they sprinted down the darkened street, fear fueling every step. A cracked sign flickered overhead reading, "Hori's Tech Solutions." As if mocking their narrow escape, panting, they took shelter behind a row of dumpsters. They knew their discovery had painted targets on their backs. Jordan glanced at his phone, certain the app would soon punish him for this intrusion. Sure enough, the phone vibrated. A curt text-based alert blinked on the screen. "Cease interference." It was gone in an instant. Exhausted but resolute, Sasha insisted they go straight to the police with the partial evidence. They compiled screenshots of the streaming data they'd managed to capture, as well as the access logs they had downloaded onto a flash drive. But at the local precinct, skepticism greeted them. "So, you're telling me an app is controlling your sleep? And you've been implicated in a random assault?" The officer's tone was almost condescending. "Look, I know how it sounds, but it's real. At least examine the logs we obtained." The officer took down their statements, but seemed unconvinced. Sasha left blue in the face with frustration. "We'll look into it," the officer said in a measured tone that implied they might not prioritize the case. Dejected, they left, uncertain if help would ever come. In the following days, the nightly torment escalated. The app's dream manipulations had a sharper edge, and Jordan found himself wandering the apartment building's corridors at odd hours. He discovered post-it notes on his bathroom mirror reading cryptic things like "obey" and "complete the task." By day, the app fed him random bursts of disorientation, splitting headaches, mild hallucinations. He suspected it was punishing him for his defiance. Jordan and Sasha hunkered down in her small studio apartment, suspicious that either location might be bugged. They used analog means paper maps and offline research to figure out their next step. Sasha had an idea. "If we can disrupt the feedback loop that updates your phone at night, you might regain autonomy." She hypothesized that if they blocked the app's transmissions at the router or cellular level, the hypnotic instructions wouldn't reach Jordan's subconscious. They enlisted the help of a fellow grad student, Zeph, who specialized in network security. He set up a specialized firewall on Jordan's home connection and installed an anti-jamming device to scramble incoming signals. The first night, Jordan powered on his phone, turned on the app as usual, but ran everything through Zeph's fortress-like security setup. The difference was immediate. The usual hum didn't surface, replaced with static. Jordan felt the tugging sensation in his mind weaken. Though dreamless, he slept more soundly than he had in weeks. He woke in his bed the next morning exactly where he'd fallen asleep. It was a small but meaningful victory. For 2 nights, the firewall held, and Jordan started to believe they could break free. Then, on the 3rd night, a power outage struck the neighborhood. In the sudden darkness, the firewall, router, and anti-jamming device powered off. He tried to remain calm, telling himself it was just a fluke. Minutes later, his phone glowed with that all-too-familiar notification. Initiating nightly sequence. Panicked, Jordan scrambled for a flashlight, rummaging for a way to keep the devices online. But it was too late. The phone's screen flashed pale white. He felt the hum in force. A deep exhaustion crashed over him as though his body weighed 1,000 pounds. The final memory he had before unconsciousness seized him was the living room door swinging open. Silhouetted against the pale emergency lights outside was a figure, face obscured. In his delirium, Jordan wondered if it was an actual intruder or a hallucination. Then, his vision blurred, and the floor rushed up to meet him. He awoke to the sound of muffled conversation. Plastic restraints bit into his wrists, pinning him to a chair in a windowless room. A tall man in a lab coat stood over him, silently thumbing through a digital tablet. Jordan's phone lay on a metal table, connected to a spiderweb of cables leading to a complex machine. As soon as Jordan stirred, the man locked eyes with him. "You've caused quite the disruption," he said flatly. "You could have cooperated quietly, but you insisted on meddling." Jordan's mind raced. He tried to speak, but the dryness in his throat made it difficult. The man continued, "The app was never meant for public use on this scale, especially not by people who'd question it. But corporate expansions have demands. We are building an army of sleepers, agents, unaware of their role until triggered. The world's a chaotic place, and our research can shape it for those who pay well." He delivered these words without a trace of empathy, as if discussing an ordinary business plan. Sasha was nowhere in sight. Jordan prayed she had escaped. The man tapped a command, and the machine started whirring. A sharp pitch drilled into Jordan's ears. He felt his mind float, as though the line between waking and dreaming was dissolving. In the haze, flashes of the man's words collided with memories. Had all of this been orchestrated from the moment Jordan agreed to that app's terms? The pitch crescendoed. Jordan's eyelids fluttered. The dreamscapes of deserted zoos and decrepit houses threatened to pull him under again. He fought with every ounce of will to stay alert. Summoning a hidden reserve of strength, he jerked against the restraints. He felt fresh blood trickle down his arms as the plastic straps cut into his skin, but his left hand slipped. Numb fingers grasped for anything, a cable, a switch. Finding a lever, he yanked. Sparks popped from the machine. The noise pitched upward like a dying shriek before cutting out. Machines beeped frantically. The man cursed and lunged, grappling with Jordan. They toppled onto the floor in a scuffle. Jordan felt the sting of a blow against his jaw. Adrenaline surged. He kicked blindly, felt contact. The man staggered. Jordan scrambled up, ignoring the throbbing in his wrists, and snatched his phone from the table. Without the controlling frequency, he felt actual clarity. He sprinted down a dim corridor, startled by glimpses of similarly bound people behind glass partitions. Some wore wires strapped to their heads, eyes closed in forced slumber. Jordan located a door at the far end. An electronic lock beeped a denial code with each frantic jab. Footsteps thundered behind him. Desperate, he hurled the phone at the lock's keypad, and by freakish luck it cracked the device's casing. The door hissed open just enough for Jordan to slip through. He bolted up a concrete stairwell. The overhead sign read, "Roof Access." Sunrise tinted the rooftop in a faint glow. The air tasted like freedom after the stale captivity below. He edged along the building's perimeter, scanning for a fire escape. Through the swirling dawn mist, a metallic staircase became visible. He pounded down its rungs, heart hammering. Once he reached the ground, he ran until every muscle screamed. The building behind him looked like any other industrial complex, an unremarkable facade concealing monstrous secrets. An hour later, he somehow found his way to Sasha's apartment. His phone was shattered, the screen a spiderweb of cracks, and the man's blow had left a fierce ache in his ribs. But he was free. Sasha was inside, pacing anxiously. Tears of relief welled in her eyes when she saw Jordan. "I thought," she began, voice trembling. Jordan slumped into a chair, chest heaving. Though battered, something vital in him had awakened. He gripped Sasha's hands. "We have to expose them," he rasped, voice raw. "No matter what it takes." The fear still coiled in his stomach. He knew they had witnessed only a fraction of the operation lurking behind the innocuous app. For all they knew, countless others were under its thrall, entirely unaware. Sasha nodded, tears streaking her cheeks. "We will," she promised. They still had copies of the data, stored securely on a drive separate from Jordan's compromised devices. They could reach out to investigative journalists, cybersecurity experts, even top-tier hackers who might help blow the lid off this psychological experiment. The forces behind it might be strong, well-funded, and unrelenting, but Jordan's conviction now burned with righteous fury. At that moment, the horizon glowed pink with the rising sun, and Jordan felt as though the night had finally lifted from his mind. He could still sense the faint vibrations, a lingering residue of the app's manipulations, but it had weakened. For the first time in weeks, He believed in the possibility of regaining his own mind. Even so, he couldn't repress a shudder at the thought of all those who wouldn't have the advantage of discovering the truth soon enough. He vowed that he wouldn't rest, and perhaps never sleep the same way again, until he helped bring the entire twisted operation crumbling down.